Well, there are love stories and there are love stories. I mean, we started with Pride and Prejudice, that's one of a kind love story. And here we are with Wuthering Heights. It's a novel which doesn't really tell you how two people fell in love. It was more of a very organic growing up process where Catherine and Heathcliff just completely head over heels. And even that is a very small expression. It was a connection between their hearts, it was a connection between their souls, like Catherine later mentions it. A childhood around each other, which kind of felt like love from day one, and eventually that was what it was. And then one visit to a neighboring estate when they left Wuthering Heights as children changed the entire course of this novel. Catherine, who's been described as somebody who's shone too bright for this world, takes certain decisions which eventually she was taking not just for herself but on behalf of Heathcliff and herself. A decision which eventually ruined both of their lives and created this masterpiece of a novel, this masterpiece of a love story, which is accentuated with pain rather than happiness. It's dark. It's, I mean, touching is too small a word. It's, like I said, it's just fucking heartbreaking. That's all it is. Probably one of the most pivotal points in the story is where Catherine, when she decides to not marry Heathcliff and marry for the sake of appearances, for the sake of comfort, for the sake of manners and what all she saw. And Heathcliff, who did not listen to, I mean, he was listening to the entire conversation from outside the kitchen when Catherine is talking to Ellen and she's talking about all the things she feels. And before she could actually talk about her connection to Heathcliff, Heathcliff was so disappointed and so hurt that he had already run away. And he never heard when Catherine mentioned that Heathcliff and me, I mean, it's like we have the same soul. And then the entire story is practically a tragedy. We see it, we'll try and analyze it from Catherine's point of view, of course, but it has most famously been viewed and written as a story from Heathcliff's point of view generally. Yes, Alan is the sympathetic, very practical, very easygoing narrator in the second half, or in the majority of this novel, because she's the one who's explaining everything in retrospect to Mr. Lockwood, who was the tenant that Heathcliff had acquired at the beginning of the novel. It's just heart-wrenching, it's gutting, and you feel something moving inside you every time you read the story. Finding somebody or being lucky enough to fall in love like that, right? Whatever his soul is made of, his and mine are the same. Falling in love like that and then ruining it, right? Ruining it to an extent that two people who should have absolutely been with each other and together had to live apart, had to spend their lives away from each other through matrimony, and yet always visible to each other, yet always being around the corner. I mean, that definitely made it worse. Even the death of Catherine or the death of Heathcliff, and that had that been the reason of their separation, or the fact that they had to spend, or one of them had to spend their life alone, would have been better than this. Of course, it would not have been that heartbreaking. So to having won that person, and then to mess it all up, to end up losing that person, wow, what greater tragedy can you think of?